Roofing is one of the toughest things for us because there's so much competition and there's so many guys that just give the stuff away. We'd have to sell 3 times as many roofs. Now you have to find more vetted crews. You're making the same amount of money at the end of the day. It does not make sense in any way, shape, or form to me to do that. Lowering your prices and try to run on volume is just never an effective model.
Spoken like a true wealthy contractor. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Contractor Podcast. This is Brian Kaskavalsian, and with me today is a return guest, one of the smartest people in this business, great operator, and really looking forward to our conversation today. Abby Binder from Abby Windows and Exteriors. How are you, Abby?
I'm doing great. Can't complain.
Good. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I see we have another guest with us too.
Yeah, this is my pup, Lala.
I'm not much of a dog person, and I know that makes me bad. I get that. It's hard enough for me to take care of myself, let alone take care of another life. The responsibility is a big one, but I think pugs are so damn cute.
They're like not dogs, but they're not cats. They're like their own thing. So
They're their own thing, but then they snore.
she
They
does
shed.
snore.
But they snore even when they're awake, though, right? It's like they're just
Yeah.
like sitting there hanging out and they're like snoring.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We just go with it.
All kinds of interesting stuff, it seems, happening out in the industry. How's business for you?
Business has been good. Can't complain. It's just been kind of a weird year, though. Like you've had some ups, some downs, and so we've just been kind of riding the roller coaster and taking what the industry gives us. Can't control it, so you just have to be steady and keep on riding it.
You've built a hell of a business over there. What are some of the things this year, maybe new initiatives that you've taken on or things that you've learned this year?
As far as a new product, we started doing baths last year, which I wish we would have started it way sooner because baths have actually, in the last year, are now almost 20% of our business. So the fact that we were able to grow that, that's been a huge opportunity for us. And siding has actually been more of a popular product, which I wasn't really expecting because it's been such a weird year. I think people were kind of scared with the tariffs and wanting to spend money. And so the fact that siding, which is more of a want than a need, has been popular. So that's been product-wise an opportunity for us. We've been expanding our footprint. So we've been adding the Madison area. Because Madison's only an hour away from us, we can just kind of run everything from Milwaukee. That's been our opportunities. Still hard to find sales reps. Leads have been great or they've been, a scrapping to try to find. So we've been going through our rehash program, doing our GTR app. That's been a huge addition for us. Not necessarily just for the referral piece of it, but to create that Amazon experience. That's been really effective for us. So we actually added an entire Abby Cares department this year. And with that, we've kind of incorporated the GTR app. And so we've actually had customers every customer downloads the app and they can get updates, and they really like it for the update feature of it so that it gives that same experience factor that tracking your UPS package or following Amazon. It's the closest thing we can do in our industry is at least give updates where they don't have to call and ask. That's been a huge thing for us. Always looking at optimizing everything. So from sales, marketing, production, that's kind of just trying to get everything streamlined and rolling, essentially.
Have you done anything different with marketing this year?
Yeah, we really pushed our events. That was something that we really added. We've just been optimizing our pay-per-click campaigns and Facebook. I'm not a huge fan of paid leads. It never seems to be very successful for us. And it seems like the quality of the lead just isn't what we're looking for. So we don't really dive deep into that much. We focus more on our TV and radio. TV's always been a huge thing for us. Radio's always been solid. I have my weekly radio show that I'm on for an hour, and then a podcast of I Know a Girl Radio. So that's on the iHeartMedia app. That always is very good lead strategy. It's not like you're getting thousands of leads from it, but the lead is very high quality and the conversion rate is really high on those. So for anyone looking for something else, that's definitely always a fun and solid one to get. We tried retail a little bit. We dabbled with the Walmart that was kind of a bust for us. So we quickly removed it. You're always trying new things in marketing and you have to be willing to try it, willing to spend some money to do it. And if it's wrong, then say you're wrong and go do something else. And that was kind of the thing for us with Walmart.
You know as well as anybody, if you're not trying new stuff all the time, you got to take part of your budget. Charlie Gandell says 20%, that every year, 20% of your leads should come from a new source or new sources, which means that you got to constantly be looking for something new. And I know you've got really good reporting and KPIs that obviously your people all have to hit. And if it doesn't hit, great. We tried it and we move on. Not everything is going to work.
Right. In different markets, sometimes things are really effective somewhere else and you're like, oh, this is going to work here. And then it doesn't. And what works here doesn't work somewhere else. So it's constantly turning the buttons and making sure that things are working. And if they're not, then stop. We really are going to be putting an emphasis on direct mail campaigns. That's our opportunity for fall that we're really going to hit hard. We're trying everything, obviously making sure that if one is not working the best, then another one will. And it depends on the month and certain times of the year, certain things work better. So we just, like I said, we just kind of take what the opportunities are and take what the economy gives us is what we're doing.
That's the game. It's a lead game, you know. If you don't have the leads, you don't have a business. And too many people are reliant on, and we've talked about it a lot here, is too many people got reliant on buying leads. During COVID, that strategy worked because it was easy. But
yeah, we were at about a 5% marketing spend during COVID.
Incredible, right? But not anymore. You wish you were at 5, but you got to spend what you have to spend within your model, your profit model, to be able to get the number of leads that you need to get. And I think this year, a lot of people have had to adjust their numbers. And you're going to spend more on marketing. Where is that money coming from? With a lot of people, it's coming from their bottom line. And I think that's part of the reason why they don't do it, why they're not looking for new stuff and testing new things. And you can't do that, you know, and you can't let it hit your bottom line. You've got to get it somewhere else. It's got to come from somewhere else.
Roofing is one of the toughest things for us as far as trying to compete in the market because there's so much competition and there's so many guys that just give the stuff away and they rely on volume. So we take a step back as contractors and we're like, okay, we're getting beat up here. Should we consider volume? And then I think about it and I'm like, okay, if we'd have to sell 3 times as many roofs. We have 3 times as much liability. We would need an extra project manager, an extra production coordinator. You would need so much more to be more crews. And now we already know crews are hard to find. So now you have to find more vetted crews. And you're making the same amount of money at the end of the day because you're going to need that many more leads then and have to spend that much more in marketing to even get that. So when you look at all those things and you break it all down, it does not make sense in any way, shape, or form to me to do that. And same thing with doing insurance. You do insurance and now you're at the mercy of what they're going to give or trying to get the homeowner to pay you anything more. It's not a business model that would work for us. And maybe somebody's found a way to do it. But at the end of the year, I don't want my net profit to be 5%. So if that's what they're looking for, then hey, great, then that'll work for you. But if you're looking to actually get paid for the risk that we take, then lowering your prices and try to run on volume is just never an effective model.
Spoken like a true wealthy contractor.
So then you take a step back and you're like, okay, what can I do to make this work? And I think for us, an opportunity is metal roofing. I think the way that insurance companies are starting to pull back on how much they're actually going to pay out and how much they've lost on hail over the years, I think the wave of the future is that we're going to start seeing asphalt shingles not even be covered by insurance and they're not going to cover hail. And so getting ahead of it and offering a stone-coated metal product is where we're seeing that opportunity. And yes, it's more money up front, but if you know that it's going to be insured, and the big buzzword this year was resilient products and resiliency, and I think that there's an opportunity there that we can all start to capture and get away from that asphalt market.
Very interesting, actually. Makes a lot of sense. But it's like anything else, Abby. It's like with marketing, it's test. You have to test it and you got to see if your theory holds true. With marketing, you got to test. Like you said, you don't know, you have this radio show opportunity. And we talked about it last time. And I think stuff like that is amazing because it makes you an authority. It makes you a celebrity. It's somebody, yeah, every week, this woman named Abby is going to show up to this radio program and she's going to talk about how to do it the right way, how to protect yourself as a consumer. And it's not like a one hit thing. And so can somebody else recreate that in another market? Maybe, but it's not going to be like it is for you because you've been doing it for years. And so you got to test it. You got to give it time and you got to measure it and make sure the thing works or if it doesn't work.
And that's the thing. You have to give marketing time because no marketing source is ever going to be a turnkey thing with the first few seconds that you turn it on. And
right.
I think we get really impatient and obviously we're spending money and it's a gamble. And so it makes people nervous. But my rule of thumb is a minimum of 3 months. Always give everything at least 3 months to be able to marinate and see how it works. Especially TV and radio, you have to give it some time because it needs consistency and people need to start hearing that. And if you think about it, they say you have to tell somebody 7 times before they remember it. So think about how many commercials that you have to be on at least 7 times so that they can actually remember your name or remember the message you're trying to give. So consistency and frequency and all that kind of go into play, and it has to be done right. And so when we talk about TV, everybody gets scared of it because they think it's going to be this huge amount of money. They don't want to spend money on it. And when I got started, I had a guy call me. He was a former Marine. And he's like, I can get you on TV for $1,000. This was back in 2012. So nowadays, who knows what with inflation, maybe that's $5,000. But it seemed like a lot of money to me by myself as a solopreneur. And I took the chance with him. And it worked. People started recognizing me. People started seeing the brand. And we did 15-second bookends. So you don't have to spend a ton of money and you don't have to be on every single station. You can start small. Start with one station. Start with the news. You don't need to be on every hour and really try to dial it in. And if you dial it in, you'll start to see that you're reaching a certain amount of people. And then when you start growing your business and you have a little bit more money, then add more times, add more days. We started with just Mondays and Tuesdays. And then you can add another station slowly. And now I started with 1 station, 2 days a week. And now I'm on 4 stations, 4 days a week. So it's crazy how it grows, but you don't have to go all in at once if you're scared. And I think it's the fear that holds people back.
So we talked marketing, we talked products, we talked about your opening up, testing new markets. What about sales? In the last episode that we did together, we talked quite a bit about sales because it's a little different for women in the industry. I remember you mentioning that at first it was, it was tough because you're a woman leading these male salespeople. That's not an issue anymore. What about sales this year? Have you learned anything new there? Have you seen anything new, used any new technology?
We've kind of simplified it more than anything. And in the last 10 years, it was very scripted was the big thing. Everybody needed to learn a script and word for word. And we kind of started to take a different approach. You need to know the steps and you need to make sure that you're following them and making sure that you're taking care of the customer and getting those commitments along the way as far as the trust and making sure that they want to do it and the need in the product and all that. But we took it a different angle and it's more of we're there for the customer. You're there to listen. You're there to solve their problem and keeping it simple. And I always tell my guys, don't get so nervous when you go into a home. Treat that customer the same way you would sell your grandma or the same way you'd sell your grandparents. And I say grandparents because my sales team is pretty young where they didn't even know who the Counting Crows were. So they make me feel old.
Oh, that's young. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, we've just really tried to simplify it and not put so much pressure on them. We really make sure that they know the product, they know the installation, but just be an honest and have integrity and go in there and just treat them like you would your family and solve their problem. That's what you're there to do, solve a problem. You're not there to play this jujitsu scripted thing of like John, Mary, and like looking back and forth and all that stuff. I think we're to a point now in our industry and to a point in like the knowledge that our customer base has that They don't have time for it. They barely want to sit through it. We're in this fast-paced life. And so let's just be honest and give it to them straight. You don't have to do all that. And that's been more effective that way than trying to play games and tactics and such.
We just had our intensives for our Success Society members, and our focus was sales. And so Scott Berman did a presentation on sales. Vince Nardo did a sales presentation on sales. And then we wrapped it up on the final day with Chris Lavoie, who was Vince Nardo's director of sales. He ran, $100 and something million company. All three of them hit on exactly what you just said, that it's about the customer. And it's understanding what it is, what their needs are. And it's not about playing games. There are still people in the industry that think one call close is high pressure. I would like to think that when they find this podcast and they hear us talking about it, they realize what we're doing is we're not playing games. We don't have a book of secret closes like they used to have that were all bullshit. It's all made up stuff. And now it's really all about focusing on them, what their needs are, educating them. And if you believe in your product, then you don't want somebody working with somebody else, because you know that, if somebody comes in at a lower price, well, wait a minute. My price is a fair price, even though it might be higher than everybody else's, because I got to pay for staff, I got to pay for Abby Cares, I got to pay for technology, but all of that is done to have a great customer experience so that the customer can feel confident in choosing us. And so if you believe in all of that, why would you allow somebody the chance to go to somebody else? So we want to ask for the order. We also want to ask for the order at that time is because it's efficient. We've given them everything that they need in order to make a decision. We've asked them questions about budget. We've asked them questions about how would you pay for this? We've asked them questions about what is your problem with your windows, with your bath, with your roof, whatever it is. And so at the end of that, why wouldn't we ask for the order? And people confuse that with what used to happen in this industry 20, 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago. We don't do that shit anymore. And it just validates for you and for others listening that these other people are also saying the exact same thing.
And one thing we've noticed too is whenever we hire a rep from a different company, they tend to be what we call tell selling. They tell the customer, you need this. This is why, they don't explain the why behind it either. So they just say, this is the best spacer system on the market, and this is triple pane, and you have to have this, and it's loaded with argon gas. And they throw all this stuff at the customer, and they don't understand why. It's not that you need this. It's that if you don't go with this, you're going to have condensation, and you're not going to be able to solve your problem because you're going to be right back to where you were. Or you go with a 5-inch gutter and you're calling me because this gutter is overflowing. Well, if I don't put a 6-inch gutter on, then it's not going to be able to handle 20% more water and it's going to overflow. They have to understand the why behind everything you do. Nobody cares about all your product and your tell selling. That does not work. And when you tell sell, that's when it seems like high pressure because you did all the talking and then at the end you hammer them. And it has nothing to do with, do I feel good about this? And if they give you a yes, it's a false yes to get you out of their home and they're going to cancel tomorrow. So I'm glad that everybody's kind of seeing that shift in the industry of just truly being there as a servant for the customer and doing everything you can. And having my radio show and having the popularity that I do in the area, I have a responsibility to my community too. And so we've really worked on our philanthropy this last year. And we do partner with Haws, so it's dogs, which is our humane society. But we also did some food pantry stuff, and we partner with the homeless shelter, and we put together like warming bags that winter and making sure that we're also taking part in our community and just without expectation, just doing it because I do have a responsibility to my community.
And I love that. And more we're starting to see that accelerate this year. Brian Gottlieb did this, he's amazing. He did this masterful presentation on cause, building a business around a cause. And he basically laid it out step by step. If we were going to start a business, a fictitious business from the ground up, Here's how we could use these types of things in order to build the business. It was a cool presentation, but the underlying thing was that be a good, give back to your community, helping out, because every community has needs. And it's such a beautiful thing that you said homeless, dogs,
hmm
and there was a third one.
Some food pantries and such.
Food pantries. I interviewed somebody from Texas. It was so long ago. I'm getting old. But anyway, the whole point was every appointment that they go out on, they collect cans of food and they fill up a box truck, and then they go and they deliver it to a food pantry. The numbers were incredible of how much food that they were able to collect and donate to food pantries in their local markets.
I'm going to steal that.
But that's a great thing. And it's a simple thing that, hey, when our sales rep comes out and he sits with you, we're doing a thing for the food pantry. And if you've got a couple cans that you want to donate, we'll pick them up and we'll put them with everybody else's. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. We did the Hunger Task Force a couple years ago, so we could kind of definitely tie that back in. And I think that if we have the ability to get to that many homes, and even if they don't buy from you, they'll take a box of macaroni and, everybody wins.
Yeah, everybody wins, of course.
And I think also as a business owner, when we talk about private equity and how to compete, and that's one of the things where when customers say, why should I buy from you? And let's pretend we're all selling the same product and we're all good, reputable companies with good reviews. Why should I buy from you? And I think that's one of the things is that you're buying local and we're in our community and we're involved and we're not just some big private equity firm that's coming here and just looking to make money on the bottom line. And I think that separates you as well as being able to be a small company and actually embrace it as well.
I'm sure you've been approached a lot by private
Every
equity.
day.
Yeah. And I'm sure they've waved a lot of money in front of you, but you haven't taken it. Why?
I think that as I've watched what's happened with other people and talked to them, and I think that there's some regret there. If I plan to sell, I don't know if I would plan to stay on mentality, because it seems like it hasn't really been super effective for most people. I think that at first it sounds great and the lump sum at the beginning sounds great, and then they're going to stay on, but now you have a boss and I don't want to have a boss. And so if I get to that point, I mean, I'm 42, so I have some time to work. But if I get to that point, when I leave, I'm dropping the keys and I'm out.
Everything you just said is absolutely true. I know a lot of, as you do, I know a lot of people that have sold. A lot. And some happy they took their money and they're poof, gone out of the industry. Some are very bored and want back in, but they don't want to be a part of, private equity. And then there are some where I talked to an old client, been a client for years and years and years, sold his business. The first year, it was all kumbaya and, oh, you're going to help us grow and you're still going to run your business. And then all of a sudden he hit like incredible numbers. And then all of a sudden, boom, they start firing his people without telling him. And they shut his office down within a matter of like 2 months. And they went to him and said, oh, by the way, you're this. And he hit record numbers for his office, record profitability, blew past every benchmark they had given him. And they completely like shut it down, like for no rhyme or reason. He's like, what the hell? You let go of all of my people that I've known for, that have worked with me for 20, 25 years. Anyway, that's a tragic story. I mean, that's a bad story. I mean, he got his money. He's good. But, it's kind of sad when they do that stuff.
Well, and to spend so many years building something. And I mean, this has been my baby for 15 years and it's my name on it. And if something doesn't go right, I mean, we're not perfect. If something goes wrong, I take that personally because it's important to me to make sure that everything's done correctly and the homeowner's happy. And I never want them to ever feel slighted or that we didn't do a good job. And obviously we're human, so we can't always be perfect, but I want to enemy of good is or enemy of great is good. So it's important to me that we're great.
What do you do in the business now? What's your main role?
I actually have an amazing team. So I've been able to kind of step back a little bit. And this has been the first year that I feel like I have actually not had to be at the office every single day. And my team runs most of the day-to-day stuff. I still do my radio show and work on some marketing stuff with TV. And I've kind of manage the managers now. I don't have to be involved in actual jobs. And the fun part for me is the sales team. That's kind of my background and my bread and butter. So I like to go and hang out with them and see what's going on with them and give them advice and kind of coach them, because if I didn't have that, it's kind of like when you think about what do you hate doing in the business and what do you love doing in the business, and you have to find what you like to do. And it's okay if that's what you want to do, I think, because it's your business. I hate accounting. I have people for that. I don't love production. I'll help where I can because every single piece of this business I've done. So I always tell my team, I'll never ask you to do something I wouldn't do myself or I haven't done myself. And I think that is a level of respect from them where for sales, for example, we don't run 7 o'clock appointments because I wouldn't have wanted to run a 7 o'clock appointment. So I don't expect them to. Is there more and more and more business you could constantly be getting? Yes, there is. But that's the nice thing about not being private equity is that I can control that. I don't make my guys run every single Saturday. I give them some of their weekends off. They have to run only 2 a month instead of 4. I ask them to work 3 to 4 nights a week, not 5, because I think it's important to have balance. And when you run them so hard and treat them like that, they burn out. And I don't make them drive 2 hours one way and then 4 hours a different way. Like, I respect them because I've been in that position and I know what it's like. And I think that that's important to realize for every aspect of the business. We give extra vacation because I tell my team, I don't want you to use your vacation days like because you're sick or sporadically. I want you to take a vacation and actually be able to, no one's going to bother you. You can be on a beach or be somewhere and just take a week to not think about the company and the business because it's important. And you come back and maybe you have even more ideas and you feel refreshed because that's what rejuvenates me. So I think that would be important for them too.
Yeah, we do the same thing. And sometimes you got to force them to do it. We actually put in a policy where they have to take a certain amount of days off every quarter.
Yeah, it's important for sure.
The dream that we talk about here is build a business that works for you. And you've done that. You don't have to be there every day. You got an amazing team. You're very profitable and the business works. And now you get to have a life and you get to do what you want to do in the business. People say to me, well, but I love selling. Great. Build a business, have a sales team, have a marketing team, have the business work, find yourself not doing much in the business and say, okay, now I want to go get involved in sales. All right, go run some leads, have at it. But build the business first. Don't build the business that relies on you to sell. Build a business that sells without you. And then if you want to inject yourself in there and you want to go run some leads, go run some leads. It's your business. So that's cool. What is the best advice you've ever gotten?
It's not so much advice, but I think it's just when you go to these conferences and you hear people speak, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up, but I think honestly, when you said it at Accelerate, when you said, we take all the risk. And so you should have that reward and you shouldn't feel guilty about it. And you need to be able to be like, when I'm not at the office, I shouldn't have to feel guilty about that because I do take the risk. And I think that resonates with me a lot because I think sometimes you have this feeling of guilt where you're like, I need to be working in the business. I feel like I'm not in the trenches. But when I step back and I actually take my days to just reflect or to read, I actually am better for the company because I do come up with more ideas and I can implement better things. It actually makes this better for me not to be in the trenches. You read so many books and you get that advice. And I think that's probably the one that I've implemented the most, that's been the most effective, is don't feel guilty. We had a mastermind group and we had a guy that didn't come up because he said, I can't come up because I have to I have to be on ride-alongs or something. And I was like, man, that if you can't be away from your business for one full day to be able to better your business in a mastermind group with people that could give you so much advice and opportunity, that's bad. Give up your sales for one day then and do it. And I think that a lot of us don't go to the conferences and they don't want to spend the money, or they think I need to be in the business, I can't leave for a day. And it will hurt you actually more than it would, it'll stunt your growth essentially is what I think. So that's the biggest thing. And just remembering we take all the risk. It's okay to have a reward.
Absolutely. 100%.
If anyone has listened to your podcast with Heather Macklin about mitigating risk, it's important. Part of this mastermind group I'm part of, and some of these people that aren't doing some of these things, that checking their contracts, checking your subcontractor agreements, checking all that, I was amazed at the size of the companies and what they're not doing. And you don't want that exposure, because it just takes one phone call from one government agency. And I really urge anybody, listen to the Heather Macklin podcast you had, and definitely consult with an attorney and try to mitigate your risk.
That's interesting, because that podcast, I'm like, wow, this is an important one, but is anybody really going to want to listen to this and want to hear about this? So Heather will be very happy that at least one person listened to it and got something from it.
It's important. Yeah. It's the part we hate, but it's the part we need.
Anything from your experience with Accelerate that you could maybe share with the audience?
I think every year's been a little different. One year we went and we realized, this was when we were smaller, holy crap, we need a call center. So we implemented an entire call center because of Accelerate. And now we're looking for a couple more. So we're growing our call center and we're doubling it. And that was at Accelerate that we realized we need this. And so you don't realize what you need until you think, oh no, I'm good, everything's running well. And then you go and you're like, oh, I need that, or I need to implement that. So that was one thing I got from the couple years ago one. And I think it's just, depending on the speakers and depending on where you're at, it seems like there's always something for everybody, but everybody's at a different stage. I remember I was sitting next to a guy a couple years ago when I was speaking at one for you, and I said, you made us do that, like, how much money do you want to make this year type thing? Or how much do you want to do with sales? And I remember he wanted to make $200,000 and he wanted to do like 2 million in sales or something. And I was like, my sales team does that. If that's their goals. And so you don't realize how many different types of people you have. That guy, and then you have the $200 million guys there. And so it's such an eclectic group that I think there's something you can get no matter what size you are. And I don't ever think anyone that's not that big should be discouraged from going, because I think it'll help you more than anything.
Abby, thank you so much. Another episode filled with lots of meaty bites. We've been sending out these emails called meaty bites. Thank you, Abby. Appreciate you. And for everyone listening, check us out, by the way. Go to thewealthycontractor.com. You'll get all kinds of information there. Go to thewealthycontractor.com. Until next time, this is Brian Kaskavalsian, and this is the Wealthy Contractor Podcast.